Yo, what is up guys? It is Lucidius back in the studio whipping up another video for you guys. Now today I got a banger for y'all. I got an absolute game changer, one that completely changed my life and humbled me, and one that you guys will very much enjoy. This was about the time that I took way too much acid for my poor little brain to handle. So let's get right into it. So to provide a little context, I had done acid before this, many times actually. I had bought a sheet, if you guys remember, on my first time doing LSD, I had bought a whole sheet. And so I had been doing those tabs thinking that they were like 120 UG, when in reality, they were only like 35 UG, like 50 UG. But I thought I was the fucking man. I thought I was the man. I thought I could handle anything. I was popping like 80 of these tabs, right, sometimes. And I thought I was doing like 800 UG. I thought I was just seriously like the Messiah himself, that nothing could really touch me. And so after I bought another sheet of LSD from a professional source who told me to be careful and told me these were 200 UG, I kind of just wrote him off. I was like, whatever, man, you're not the Messiah, I am, fuck off. And so I had these beautiful tabs, absolutely stunning, just everything about them. They were bigger, first off, than the first sheet I had. Like, the tabs were literally 2 times bigger, which is something I really should have kind of made a mental note of, but for some reason I just didn't. I just thought nothing of it. And so on this fateful day, I was with a good friend of mine named Jordan. He's in a lot of these videos, and Tyler, he actually was in the first time doing mushroom videos. So these two were the original people that I first ever did psychedelics with in general. So it was really humbling, especially on this experience, to do this with them. So on this day, I ended up grabbing these tabs, and we had all decided that we were gonna do like one each, right? And so my two friends pop one each. And I pop one as well. I started off with one, and we decide to go walk and have a little smoke at this nice trail that I talk about all the time in these videos. So I grab a massive, I had like a fucking canister of joints. They were like covered in keef and oil too. They were so lit. They were awesome. And we start walking our little asses over the trail. Now at this point, we had waited a little bit. Things were getting a little wiggly, a little happy looking, you know? It was starting to look like a fucking cartoon outside. You know, the sun was shining, the sky just looked amazing, the road looked blue as well, even though it was black. Everything was just super cool looking. It was starting to take shape and form. And so we walked to this trail, I put the joints down, and we start just talking and conversating and just tripping balls a little bit, you know? Like, at this point we hadn't smoked any weed, so the trip was coming on, but we were chilling. Now, I made a fatal fucking error. Right as we were about to smoke these joints, I accidentally kicked the whole 10 of them into the river. You see, the way this was set up is there was tracks that ran through this trail, but there was a river that ran kind of underneath it, like a cross, you know, but underneath it. And so there was these concrete platforms that kind of just helped the trail run through. And so we were sitting on one of these concrete platforms, and that's the one that I kicked it off of. And we, at the time, it was just so funny to us because we were on LSD, and we were like, holy crap, what just happened? Fuck, you know? But we were like, whatever, we'll just go back to my house and grab some more weed. No big deal. Weed is kind of infinite in Canada. So we walked back to my crib, and at this point, it was getting a little hazy. All the walking back and forth, it was starting to blend into one, you know? And we go back to my house and we grab these joints, and then we walk all the way back. At this point, we were not having as good of a time. This was very repetitive. It felt like we were kind of stuck in a loop. But once we got back, we started just smoking these joints like it was just, we just started chiefing these things, you know? Just smoking it like we had never smoked before. My boy said something funny. I can't repeat it because I'm not black. But he said that he felt like an N-word in a cotton field. And that is probably the most racist thing I've ever heard come from a black man's mouth. But I kind of understood what he meant. What he kind of meant is like he felt like just a man on a rock, you know what I mean? But he put it in like his own funny ass terms, and it was so funny to us. But we're smoking these joints, and all of a sudden I see my boy Jordan sit down, and he just looks out the trees in front of him. He's like, his foot dangling off the little platform that I had kicked off the joints off of. And so I decide I'm gonna do the same thing, because I felt the acid and weed just start to kick my ass. Like there's no way I could talk at this point. There was just no words to describe what we were starting to see. So I sit down, and when I say that everything popped out of us like an IMAX movie, like imagine the IMAX movie opening. That was the visuals, that was the trees, that was everything. It just started coming at us like protruding. It looked like extra 3D. I really don't know how to describe it. It looked extra 3D. And I was just in shock and awe just looking at this shit. My friend Tyler was kind of tweaking a little bit. I'm not too sure what he was going through. I can never, I've asked him about this experience, and he kind of described what happened, but I don't think he even really knows what fully was happening in his head at the moment. And at the corner of my eye, he scuttles towards me like an insect, and it really freaked me out for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it just added this tinge of anxiety. He seemed a bit anxious too, and I'm sitting there just staring at this shit, and he's like, "How's your trip going?" And that really broke my brain, because I'm like, are you not seeing this shit? Are you not tripping too? Like, what do you mean, how's my trip going? You're experiencing it. That shit really broke my brain. And at the time I had no words. I was like, oh, good. And I was just staring at all this shit. The silence was so loud. Like, you could just hear you could hear the silence. This acid was unlike any acid I had ever done before. Now, here's something that I hadn't shared with you guys, and I'm about to share right now. You see, on the walk back, when I got these joints, I had actually popped a second tab, and it was still sitting on my tongue. Now, after a bit of sitting and staring at this shit like an IMAX movie, we decided it's best to just walk home. This shit was starting to really kick the fuck in, man. Like, badly. I wouldn't say bad, like it hadn't gone bad yet, but I felt this anxiety, like this physical tension. Ever since my friend Tyler had scuttled up to me like a bug, I had felt this like tension inside of me. And so once we walk home, I sit in my chair and I go to find and put a video on. Now, I'm having a very hard time doing this because the visuals are starting to just take over my vision. My friend Tyler starts asking us questions and like talking to us, and I just can't really respond. I'm just like glued to my screen trying to figure out what a video is, what English is, just kind of broken. I was like, what the fuck is even the point of this? Like, I had no idea what I was doing at all. And for whatever reason, guys, Tyler thought we hated him, and he straight up walked out my house and walked all the way home across town. He was found by one of his good friends that we'll call Thing One, and Thing One found him and just kind of told us later on that he was fucked. But we had no idea where he went, and this kind of caused more anxiety. You see, we hadn't noticed that he had left. He told us that he was just going to go into my brother's room and speak to my brother, and we were like, all right, bet. And so me and my boy Jordan were just sitting there kind of just like, he was giggling his ass off first off, but me, I was trying to hold it together because I felt like I had to trip sit these guys. I was the experienced veteran. These guys were the guys that had never done acid before. So I really wanted to make sure they were having a good experience. And I think all these expectations were kind of the reason why this trip went a little bit south. But I'm looking for this video, he's giggling away, and we realize he's absolutely gone. And Jordan starts looking for him, and he's like, Tyler's gone. And we just started like kind of freaking. I was like, what? Where did he go? And we just we're like, what? Like we just couldn't really do anything but accept it. We were like, this guy's just fucking gone. What happened? Because what we were experiencing was so insane. We just couldn't believe that this guy had dipped. And on top of that, we were tripping balls. So it's like, how the hell is he managing? You know what I mean? Now, this is where things get worse. This tab was still on my tongue, and I'm looking for a video, and I just can't do it. I literally can't do it. I look at my hands, and they're starting to just fractal into time and space. I could not tell my hands from the carpet. The carpet was just infinitely diving into... My carpet is dirty and disgusting, and it somehow looked like the most intricate piece of art, yet it was so complexly terrifying. Like, it was just infinitely fractaling. My fingers and hands were gone. Like, I couldn't do it. And I seriously just looked at my hands. At this point, Jordan was sitting on the bed just laughing and giggling, so couldn't believe that Tyler had left. And I seriously sat there like... freaking out as I realized, oh shit, I had taken too much. And that was the thought in my head, like, oh no, you had really done it this time. I've really done it. I've taken too much acid. I'm gonna lose my mind. This is what everyone talks about in the YouTube videos. This is what people warn me about. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I just started losing it, like uncontrollably. I spat the tab out that was still on my tongue, because this is the moment I realized, oh fuck, get this shit out of me. And I look over at my friend Jordan, and our eyes connect in such an amazing way. Our eyes connect, and he realizes the same thing that I'm experiencing. And we both just have this insane moment of, like, I wouldn't even call it clarity. It was like an oh fuck moment. He went from giggling to like, oh shit, this is not good. And we are just freaking out now. We're like, how does this end? How do we get this to stop? And we just keep going in this loop because of the weed and the acid. We were just stuck in a loop. I literally curled up in a fucking ball at the end of my bed and just sat there shivering while he was sitting on the bed. And he's like, bro, we gotta do something. So I put on a fucking video. I put on Sassy the Sasquatch, and this shit was a horrible idea. This stuff's amazing to watch on mushrooms and low doses of acid, but in this state, it was terrifying. He was talking to us. It felt like the characters from the show were literally talking to us and asking us questions, and we were like, what the fuck is going on? And my dad's voice was warping all throughout my fucking house. He was having a conversation on the phone and walking around, so it just made it even worse. Like, and his voice is loud, and it was just warping everywhere. And we, at this point, lost it. We were like, we gotta get this shit to stop. Like, yet at the same time, we were like, this is amazing. We were like freaking out. It was the whole spectrum of psychedelic emotions, but mostly terrified. And we get to a point where we're not watching anything, and we are discussing how the fuck we can fix this and make it end. And it is actually just doing our heads in. I'm like, how do we get this to end? And then my boy Jordan's like, how do we get what to end? I'm like, this. And like in that moment I realized, hold on, this is like my mind. What do I mean? How do I get my mind to end? It was like a side realization, but I knew that this shit had to stop. And I had one idea. I was like, I know a guy that can get us benzos. We had never, at this point, I hadn't touched benzos. He didn't touch a pill. He didn't even want to do this. But in this state, he would do anything to make this end. He's like, fuck it, just text him up. Let's do this. Let's get it to end. And I kept like fading off, like staring into nothingness. And he would do the same thing. And then he'd be like, bro, get the guy. And it got to the point where he literally grabbed my phone and was like, started monkey yelling into the air, like primally yelling. And then he bit down on my phone and cracked my phone screen. And normally you'd think I would be mad, but like it was actually the one moment of pure euphoria. We just started laughing our asses off as if like, what the fuck are we doing? You know, it was a little bit of clarity. It was so funny. Like, he just bit into my phone, like a straight up a tooth mark. I was like, what the fuck? And we just started laughing our asses off. But we quickly went back to tweaking right after. And from there, I hit up the guy, the same dealer that had sold me the text, the same dealer that had sold me the bars later on. And I'm like, dude, we are having a horrible trip. Please help. And he's like, I got you. I know how it is. I got you. And so we had to walk all the way downtown to meet this guy. And this walk was kind of the only grounding part of this trip. We were still tweaking, but this had like kind of put a halt to it. You know what I mean? Like we now had a goal, a mission, a purpose. And so we still felt anxious and scared and terrified, but now there was a direction to go to. You know what I mean? And so we head all the way downtown and we sit our asses down on a bench. Keep in mind, it is midday on like a fucking Saturday or Sunday. I believe it was a Saturday. So like there was people driving by, like there's fucking people walking by. It was crazy. To describe to you what we were seeing, it was like a Ryan toy review video. I don't know why I thought about it like that, but everything looked like way too bright and colorful, and like the sun was out. I don't know, like it was so blue. People looked like cartoon characters. They didn't look fucking real. These cars were like squished. Every car that drove by was super squished, and they looked like toy cars. And in the distance, I see the dude with his girlfriend, the guy that was going to bring us the benzos, pulling up. And this guy, like, he looked like, I'm like, is that an old man and an old woman? Because my friend pointed them out at first and said that was them. And me, I just thought they were an old man and an old woman. I'm like, what? That's some old couple. But as they came into view, I quickly realized that these guys were actually youngins. These were our friends. It was so trippy. And so they hand us this bar. It was like a quarter each. And at this point, me and Jordan kind of decided, I don't know, we were kind of hesitant. We hadn't popped it yet. We had other priorities. We're like, first off, we need a beverage. And so we pull up to the convenience store that was literally right across the road from the bench we were sitting on, accompanied by these two lovely individuals who are now trip sitting us, his girlfriend and the man himself. And we walk in there, and as my boy Jordan described it, it was like we were kids in a candy shop. It was like the first time we had ever been in a convenience store. It was so bright. He was having a great time at this point. Me, I was still tweaking. I couldn't figure out how to get the fucking water dispenser to work. Like, to the point where I was getting angry. And his girlfriend came up to me and was like, "Do you need help?" I'm like, "I'm trying." And she so easily just does that, like, she just puts it forward. I was trying to click a button, but I just clicked the gate. I guess I just clicked like the selection for the drink, and you need to push down on the lever. You know, it's pretty simple shit, but in this state I couldn't do it. And I was starting to freak out. And I was so thirsty too. I think this is part of the reason I was tweaking. Like, the dry mouth was just unbearable. And she gives me this water, and drinking it, it was like I was baptized in the Jordan River. It was incredible. Instantly all my anxiety had washed away. I felt this cool relief running through my veins, run down my esophagus. And I started giggling, man. I was like, oh my Lord. The moment I realized how dumb I was not being able to get this drink out, I was like, holy crap. It was just so relieving. And we walk out there with our bevs. They kind of tell us to be careful, you know, and the girlfriend kind of gives Jordan a bit of a look because she thought I was a crackhead. And she's like, "Why are you doing this type of shit with him?" Now, guys, I have very specific opinions on psychedelics. I don't think psychedelics are bad at all. I don't care what you say. I just really don't think that they're harmful to some degree. They can cause negative experiences, but if anything, that'll just make you not do drugs or not do acid. So, like, what's the big deal? So we start walking back to my house. We take a few side roads on the way there. And the trip starts to it takes a turn, you know. It gone full circle. It went from completely terrible to not that bad to okay, this is all right, to now this is starting to get good, you know. We talk about how, like, we don't feel like popping this pill. We just don't feel like popping this pill. And I explained how I just felt like a pussy. I was like, I can't believe I'm gonna do some acid and not be able to handle it, and then stoop lower and do some bars. I just felt pathetic and weak doing that, you know. So we both just collectively decided that it just wasn't a good idea to take this benzo. And so we're walking home, and he plays this song called Mystery Lady. It's got a feature from Don Toliver in it, and I don't actually know the main artist that sings it, funnily enough, but it was such an amazing song. The trees started bouncing to the beat, you know. It was just crazy. I started smiling. Like, it turned into a good day. So we go back to my house, and from there, man, I think we just talk about things and watch that video. And at one point we look in the mirror, and all I seen, now this is very blasphemous. I'm a very religious individual, but when I looked in the mirror, I just seen God. I looked at myself and seen God. Now I now know that I seen a product of God. We are all products of God. I'm not going to delve into that shit really, but it was a pretty amazing sight. I just seen two gods staring back at us, and I realized that it was us. And from there, we just watched some shows, shoot the shit, smoke some more weed. It was a good experience after that. And later on, you know, my boy Jordan kind of just told me that he wanted to soak in life. And he didn't really touch psychedelics for a while after that. In fact, he went easier on the weed, and so did I, man. I took it a lot easier after that too. It was an incredibly humbling experience. I had never fucked up on acid before. I had never experienced something so terrifying ever. It felt like my mental state was literally deteriorating rapidly. I didn't know if I was going to make it out of that the same human being, and I didn't, but it was all for the better. So guys, if you did like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. You know we're trying to get to 100 subscribers, please. Without further ado though, I'll hit you up in the next video.